Hello, I'm Heidi and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the beginner mistakes, and not only beginner mistakes, but also people might do them later on in their language learning journey. So let's see what are these 7 typical mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1, starting later. Often, if you are thinking about starting later, it means that you eventually are not gonna start, or you are constantly postponing and postponing. Oh, I'm so busy with work and other things. I will do it later. I will do it next year, next month, next week. I will do it tomorrow. And then eventually you are never really starting. So this sounds very obvious, but it's a very common thing. And also, if you have been studying some language, but you had a break, it becomes quite common that people are postponing, restarting the learning. How can you overcome this postponing syndrome? You can overcome it by committing to simple, easy steps that you believe you can do and that are not too difficult to do. I personally think that it makes sense to decide that, for example, I'm learning for half an hour every day, and you are committing to that half an hour. Then whatever you are doing in that half an hour, whether it's practicing vocabulary or reading or listening, at least you know that you have that half an hour for getting closer and closer to your goal. Mistake number 2, being inconsistent. This is related to the previous one, especially if you started to learn a language, but then life got busy and then you eventually had a break and didn't continue studying. Then you start again, you maybe study several hours a day, but then you are not studying in the next 2 weeks at all, and then you are again trying to cram everything in one day. Well, this doesn't work. Language learning is not very efficient if you have long breaks in between. The longer the break, the harder it gets to study again. What is the solution? To commit to some specific amount of time for learning, either every day or at least every week. Mistake number 3, focusing only on vocabulary and reading. Of course, it's important to learn new vocabulary, and this is fundamental, especially in the beginning, because without vocabulary, you cannot form any sentences, you don't understand anything, and you cannot really move forward. But there is an important balance between learning vocabulary and reading texts, and also producing the language, meaning forming your own sentences and saying things out loud. It's really important and often overlooked by learners that you should also read out loud, produce the sounds. That helps you later on when you want to speak that language. And of course, it's important to listen to the language as well. Mistake number 4, wanting to just speak. Sometimes learners come to me telling that they just want to focus on speaking. My channel is about Finnish learning and teaching, and surprisingly often people want to learn spoken Finnish, which is completely understandable. It's what you need in everyday communication, and you need to be able to understand what people are talking to you to be able to then respond as well. However, if you are a beginner, there's no way you can just start by speaking. You need a lot of vocabulary building and also basic grammar knowledge that is built step by step. And all this background work will later on help you to speak more fluently and more confidently. This doesn't mean by any means that you should overlook speaking in the beginning. It is important to practice it as well, but remember to be realistic. If you are a complete beginner or you are a beginner and you have a lot of gaps in your vocabulary knowledge or in your grammar knowledge, then just focusing on speaking is not realistic. You should focus on speaking concerning those topics that you have already learned. Mistake number 5, being too distracted with apps. Nowadays we have so many different language learning resources and apps that it can be overwhelming to know what you should really focus on, what you should do in your next study session. To be honest, although many language learning apps can be a lot of fun, it's not the most efficient way to learn a language, because often it does not focus on all the different areas of language learning. As I mentioned earlier, it's not good to focus only on speaking or only on vocabulary. You should focus on the language as a whole. And that basically means that you have to practice your reading skills, listening skills, writing skills, and speaking skills. All of those 4. Quite rarely any apps help you to practice all of these. Also, some apps can give you a false sense of progress, which means that you think, oh yes, I'm progressing a lot, I'm already completing level 5. Whereas in reality, if you compare it to what you could have learned in the same time in a well-structured language course or with a really good book, it's not really that much. Mistake number 6, avoiding structured learning. This is in a way also related to my previous point, being distracted with too many resources and apps. I know that maybe some of you had negative experiences back at school with very strict teachers or old-fashioned language learning methods, and you feel like you don't want to repeat those bad experiences when you eventually barely learned anything or had a very bad time. That's not the point. Structured language learning doesn't have to be boring, but it's a fact that if you want to become very good and proficient in a language, there are always some certain steps you need to follow. As I mentioned, you need to practice all of the 4 important areas: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And well-structured language courses and well-structured language learning books all do this. They all help you to practice these different areas and gradually help you to focus on the important steps and important things that correspond to your level. And mistake number 7, trying to figure out everything on your own. Nowadays, you can be studying very efficiently on your own as well, but still, when you reach at least intermediate level or even before that, you also need some real exposure with the native speakers, and you need to practice with native speakers. There's no way you can learn a language proficiently 100% on your own, because you always need some interaction with real people. And it's highly advisable that you also have a really good teacher who's helping you to focus on the important things that you might otherwise overlook and that are gatekeeping you from progressing to the next level. What other common mistake would you add to the list? Let me know in the comments. If you feel lost in your Finnish language learning, you have already learned some Finnish before, but you don't know really where you are at, what you should focus on next, I highly recommend that you'll check the link in the description. This link leads you to my Finnish language assessment and personal study package. This is perfect for learners who have been learning Finnish for quite a while, but have not yet reached their goals and need extra help in figuring out what are the best next steps for them. All the details are in the link in the description. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Moi moi! Bye!